Because I know Wiggum's tag, at some point, you can even read his name, phone number, anything.
Yeah,
It was
and
scratched
same.
off.
And that definitely happens to my dogs because when they clink together, yeah, it scratches and they fade. So there's a variety of different dog tags that you can purchase online, ones that look like little driver's licenses, ones where you can
Mm-hmm.
put funny sayings. Doesn't yours say like my mom's ugly crying, please call her or something?
It only says call my mom. I almost got the one that's like, call my mom, she's ugly crying. Doom, doo doom, doom, doom.
Boom. Let's snoots, boom. Let's snoots.
Welcome to Let's Boop Snoots.
I'm
My name My name is Vero.
and my name's Heidi.
And today we're gonna boop.
Boop de boop boop de boop boop boop. What is our topic of the day?
Our topic of the day is dog etiquette.
Dog etiquette. Finishing
Do's and
class.
don'ts.
Finishing class for dogs.
Yes.
What is it called? What did they used to have in the olden days for like women? They would have to go. Is it finishing school? Is that what it is? Where
It's
they
not
learned how to
etiquette school.
like it's etiquette, and I think it was called finishing school, where you learn to put
Oh
your
yeah.
pinky up when you drink your tea, and like
Yeah.
all what the dinnerware was, like the forks and knives and what to use first, how to sit at
I
the
learned
table.
that during the Titanic.
Oh
When I watched the
yes,
Titanic. From the outside to the inside.
I learned it from that. What was that like 80s movie with Julia Roberts and Richard Gere, the Pretty Woman?
Pretty Woman.
Yeah, remember when she's like learning in the hotel about like
No, I
the,
don't
the
remember.
fine dining? It's a classic. Anyways, finishing school for doggies. Maybe the oh my
Put your
goodness,
paw
that's
up.
I wonder if there's like such thing because like we train like there's dog training school and there's like puppy class and stuff like that, but there's nothing about like owner etiquette because ultimately it's the owner, right? Right?
I feel
Right?
another business idea coming.
I feel like people would be like, "What are you talking about? I'm perfect."
It is the owner because
Well,
usually when you go to get your dog trained, it's really kind of teaching the owner what to do with their dog. So
yes.
human etiquette.
Human and doggy etiquette, everybody. So, yeah, there's a couple of do's and don'ts lists here, and we're just going to have a general conversation about it all today because there's just like so much to consider
Hmm.
when it comes to etiquette, doggy etiquette.
Yeah, kind of like when you go to the park, when you're walking your dog. What are the
So,
do's and the don'ts?
we can start with some of the obvious ones. So, one of the first ones I have on one of my lists here is scoopa your poop. Boopa da snoot and scoopa your
Scoop it to
poop.
poop. Always bring extra baggies because you never know when your
Yes.
dog's going to have a double.
A double poop.
A double poop.
That has
Yes.
happened to me before.
Or like double poop completely separate.
Yes.
Or they look like they're done and you're tying your bag up and
And
then
then
they
they,
squat again.
yes,
You're
had
like
had
trying
a
to
couple of,
reopen the bag.
exactly, which is gross.
Yes.
Yep, scoop of the poop is an obvious one. I always like to tell little stories as we talk and teach about the world of dogs. Um, a nurse that I used to work with used to tell me she had a wee teeny dog. I forget what kind of dog it was, and I don't know that I ever met it. But anyways, she used to tell me that like at night when it was dark outside, she would like and she was out walking her dog and her dog would poop. She would just bend over and pretend to pick it up, but she actually didn't.
Would she actually like use a bag?
Well, I don't know. I don't think so. And I guess if it's dark out, nobody can really see. But yeah,
That is bad.
don't be like her. That is bad. And I wonder if there's like issues in our neighborhood because somebody like put up signs on their lawn even that said like please like pick up your animal waste and don't let your like if you're living in a suburbia where people are like, you have like the people that are like lawn obsessed and they like are out there with scissors trimming the edges and like vacuuming up like all the extras that
Yes.
fall into the driveway and stuff like that. Maybe don't let your dog like pee or poop on their on their lawn.
Yes, I was just gonna say,
'Cause-
like, don't let your dog urinate on other people's lawns, but especially those that look like perfect, where you know they're working really hard to keep that
I know.
lawn like
I know.
looking
I'm
perfect.
hoping I find like just on a side note here, I'm hoping that we're moving away from that because it's like killing some of the ecosystem like diversity. Like there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of like advertisement and it's funny as I mentioned this. We have an initiative in our city that's called No Mow May, where you don't mow your lawn for the entire month of May because all of your weeds and dandelions that come up are actually really good for the bees, which are like dwindling by the
Oh.
day. So you don't mow your lawn because they need all of that pollen from like the weeds and stuff. So we did a No Mow May, but our May was like super humid and like wet like this year. So
Yeah.
this past weekend our backyard looked like Jurassic Park. Like I couldn't see my dogs and the tall dandelions and weeds. So we attacked the back. Our backyard is back to normal now. But man, did we ever do no mow May this year? So,
Yeah.
anyways, if you saw a lawn like that, I mean, let your dog go to town. But if you see like a perfectly manicured lawn, chances
Yes.
are they don't want dog urine on it. So
No.
keep an eye on that. And same thing with when you're off leashing, like it's very easy to not notice your dog going, right? So like back in the day we used to have like an after work club like in the park across the street and we'd all sort of meet up like all the neighborhood people and let our dogs off leash and we'd stand there and chat with one another, but we were always looking out for one another, right? So if I saw, Jethro or Harley, those are dogs, not neighbors, by the way, peeing or pooping off in the distance, I would let their owners know, hey,
Yeah.
Harley's having a poop over there. Oh, thanks. And they would like go over and grab it and let you, we would just like look out and make sure we're paying attention and being respectful of the park, right? Because like people play soccer there, people play baseball there. And the last thing you want is somebody sliding into first, literally.
Yeah, and then falling right on top of it.
Oh, God, that would
Ooh,
be awful. That would be
that would
awful.
be awful.
So, yes, poop. Pick up your poop
Yes.
and watch where they pee because dog urine is also like harmful, right? Like our backyard is not a green looking backyard because
No.
it leaves the grass looking yellow. And wasn't there,
Yellow.
didn't we boop or snoot a
Yes,
product?
it was like rocks that you put in your
Yes.
dog's water and it
It,
like
new,
ensures that your dog's urine does not dry out or burn your lawn, but
I know. And I
I
think we
don't
snooted
know.
it.
We definitely snooted it.
We gave it the snoot. But
Yes.
yeah, I don't know if such thing exists. So just be conscious of your dog's waste.
Yeah. The next one that I have is when you're walking your dog, keep your dog on a leash. Da, da, da,
Yes.
da.
It seems like such a novel idea. But
Say what? Because there is one dog in my neighborhood that is, walking freely and it's just not safe. Like, we're beside a really busy street. Like, our street is not that busy, but
I
like
would
not
say
too far.
unless you have your dog perfectly trained and that they are like
Yes.
walking in heel and are able to do that no matter what distraction, no matter whatever, that dog's by your side, then yes. But to like off leash your dog in like
Yeah.
areas where they are not supposed to be off leashed, you have them running and pooping on people's lawns or into their backyards,
Yeah. And you don't know.
and you
And there,
don't know.
yeah.
Or you have somebody who's training a dog
Yes.
and
Who
working
would
their
that
hardest,
be?
and now
And
you're
then the dog
distracting
comes up.
them, providing them with an unwanted distraction,
Mm-hmm.
and just for safety for your own dog. Like what if he
Yes.
goes into
Like
the road?
if you love your dog, like I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
Maybe they're from somewhere where that's okay and they're used to it, but I
It
don't
would be
know.
one thing if you saw them and the dog never came over to bother you, but if the dog's coming over to Ralph and approaching your dog and it's unwanted, like that's one of the next things too, is just like
Oh yeah,
that's
and
on the
like super
list.
playful and wanting to play and Ralph is
Yes.
like And I have Ralph on a prong collar, and I'm just like, I don't want to hurt him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly. And at the same time you can't like off leash him either, like in mid
in the middle of
street,
the
like
street.
and yeah, like yeah, no. So definitely like keep your dog on leash and obviously unless like perfecto trained to the max.
Hmm.
So on that same note, and I know that we've talked about this before, but it's just like meeting on leash. So you really have to be, or just let's just talk about a dog walk and on leash. Let's just talk about a dog on leash in general.
Hmm.
When I am taking my dog on a walk, I am the boss and I am aware of what's going on in the environment. So if I see two super reactive dogs that are literally lunging and barking and like going nuts because they see my dog coming, I will cross the road and give them their space. Like, why? I'm not going to approach them and be like, hey, can we say hi?
They look friendly.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and that's their business to do that or whatever. But like, I'm gonna cross the street. Or if I'm training and I'm walking my dogs like in a structured walk, that can just look like a normal walk and a well-behaved dog to people who are not dog knowledgeable. And so they're coming up with their dog that just happens to be good on leash, and then they say, "Oh, is it okay if we say hi?" I personally do not say hi on leash because you don't know how an interaction is going to go. And I've said this before, but I'll describe it again. But when you have a dog tethered to a leash, it's the equivalent to backing them into the corner. They don't have the freedom to choose, to
Hmm.
walk away, to run away, to do whatever. And if they have a not so great reaction to that dog, now you've got a dog fight, and now your hands are literally attached to the dog. Sometimes it's around their wrist, and I've seen leash injuries like to people's hands and stuff. You break a finger or something because it gets caught or whatever. The dogs are intertwined. So now if you even want to like remove your dog from the situation, the leashes are attached to it, and it can turn into like a total poop show in a matter of seconds.
Yeah. And not
So
just that, respect, like as the person
yes.
that's asking, like, can we say hi? And if
Yeah,
the other person says no, then respect that.
exactly.
Yes.
Respect that. And the other big thing, and that we learned on one of our most recent shows where we had my friend Jen talk about her seeing eye dog, which I can't believe, is when you see a dog very clearly with a working vest on, do not pet it and don't
No.
ask to pet it. It's
Yeah. I
working.
try not even to look at them.
Yeah, exactly. Or make any noises or go, which is hard.
Cute.
It's so cute. Because that's just making it harder for them to do their job.
Yeah.
And they're probably good or whatever. But, anyways, a working dog is not a petting dog. It's not a petting zoo. I can understand if it's kids that like don't understand the difference. So if you have kids, tell them, no, sorry, that dog's busy and he's at work. He's not for petting.
Yeah.
We can go to the Humane Society or we can find a friend with a dog if you want to pet dogs. But that dog's working. We need to let him be and let him do his own business.
Yeah.
But it's adults that do this.
I know. I
I
know.
know. Yep. Um, Again, I'll tell the story about when I traveled with my good friend Mish and her dog Nikita, and we were going to New Orleans, and we had to fly there and going through the airport and everything. And I have to say, people definitely noticed the dog. Like they're always like, "Oh, the dog." But anyway, she had a working vest on Nikita. She had Nikita well trained to go on this trip, and all over Nikita's vest, she got these different patches, and one of them said. Some of them just flat out said don't touch, like working dog, like, and don't touch, please, no pets. And then there was one that said I don't bite but my owner might. And people kind of like laughed at that.
Yeah.
But I have to say I didn't see one person like reach out or ask to pet. Like she made it very clear. It said like right on Nikita's vest, like
Yeah.
do not touch me and
I
stuff like
need
that.
that.
And I have to say that people were pretty respectful of of that, and she was very obvious with it.
And something else that's kind of similar, if you don't have a dog and you see this individual walking their dog, don't just assume that, approaching them and petting the dog is something that, like, that they want.
Mm-hmm.
That's like almost like a compliment to them. Like your dog is so cute, and like approach them, like ask for permission.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Like always ask for permission. Even
Because you
like,
never know what the dogs, like you said, like how they're going to react. And
yeah,
it's
and
another
it's
safety issue.
and I find that like I find that very strange because I think people, at least like I would say the majority in my experience of people, have learned to ask, but then they don't necessarily react the way that you want them to either. So like you said, respecting like what the answer is. So if I say no, then be like, okay, no problem, and then you continue on and stuff like that. But people just think that just like it's like almost asking as a courtesy, but we're gonna let them say hi like anyways or whatever. And there's like a lot of
Hmm.
people apparently that just don't listen and assume and go ahead before they even get an answer from you. So yeah, like I agree. Like ask politely. I always ask to touch somebody's dog, and to me, like just watch the person for a second or two to try to figure out what's going on. Like I
Hmm.
remember I was at a baseball game with my kids, and there was a guy off in on the other side. He was watching the other team. He was the enemy, and he I could very clearly see that he was training the dog. Like he had the dog in a sit stay, and then like every so often he was doing like little exercises with him where he was doing training. And afterwards, like when we were walking by, I said, I noticed that you were like training your dog. And he talked to me about his dog and where he came from and the kennel that he came from. And again, like the dog wasn't doing any working. And I said, may I pet your dog? And he said, of course, go ahead. And it was this beautiful like German Shepherd, G Shep,
Mm.
and he was doing real well at the training. So anyway, so again, like you can't come running up to that dog and like "Yee!"
Yeah.
and stuff. So just watch what people are doing with their dogs first. And there's designated areas I find like in cities, like off-leash dog parks. Well, it's safe to say that you can go in there and like pet any dog that comes running up to you because people are okay with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But still like be respectful of one another. But anyways, yes, I can go on and on about this forever. I want to go back because I forgot to tell a story about the scoopity poop instant.
Tell
So
us.
I can't remember if it was a comedian or if it was a story on the internet. I forget where I read this or heard this from, but anyways, this guy was describing going through an airport, and this person had a dog with them, and the dog squatted right in the middle of like the airport area and took a poop, and she just kept walking, and somebody said, hey, excuse me, like your dog just like pooped or whatever, and she went, yeah, they can clean it up, and just kept walking, like, and so this
Oh.
guy could not like believe just like how rude and like insensitive that was. Like, clean up after your dog. And I can tell you from traveling with Mish that she knew exactly where there's dog stops like in areas for your dog to go. So when we were in the Chicago airport, there was a big like fake green grass area where you could go, and there was everything that you needed there to clean up after your dog. So know where those are, or ask somebody, or clean up after your dog if they have an accident, if you're going to be taking
Yeah.
them into public spaces. So anyway, so he said that he was like, so irate, like watching this woman and just a complete disregard, and other people stuck around and went and approached airport staff to clean up, blah blah blah. Anyways, he gets to his gate, and the woman's there with the dog. So he was just like, oh my god, do I say something, do I not? So anyway, so then he turns to her and he says, oh, are you flying to wherever the destination was that they're going? Let's say it's New York. Are you flying to New York? He said, yeah. Yeah, that they just changed that gate. Actually, you're at gate 172 or whatever. So she got up and left. That made me laugh. That's
That's
like,
kind of funny.
that's some nice that's some nice karma there. Oh, anyways. So I think there, like, we address some of the other things that I see on our lists here. It talks about like not playing on leash, always leash your dog on walks, only let your dog greet a stranger if they ask, and that sort of thing. There's one here that says prevent barking.
Hmm.
So this is where, and you'll see it when you go to even apply for a dog, or they ask about your living space, right? Because if you're living in a small apartment, you don't want a barker because that's going to be problematic with your neighbors. And
Yeah.
I think we talked about this on an episode once in Japan and why they debark dogs sometimes if it's an issue.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what that's why we have the barking collars and stuff like that, right? So you can either work on that with your training, or you can use one of these devices, I guess, if it's an issue with the dog, but work around the whole barking aspect with your dog, like for sure.
Yes.
Because for neighbors' sakes, for whatever sake, my father-in-law is a quadriplegic and he can't see. So when the dog barks, it scares him like really
Because
badly.
it's unexpected.
Yes, it is. And so even for a person who who isn't visually impaired, sometimes if you're just sitting there and your dog just like starts barking very suddenly and loudly, it's scary to
Yes.
everybody. I'm like, oh my God. It always makes me mad sometimes. I'm like, we're crying out loud, dog. And then we're all just barking.
Yeah.
So
Yes, definitely working on that. We're actually working on that with Ralph,
mhm,
making do something when we know like there's a dog coming
yeah.
so he can focus on that. And even if he sees the dog and he's in a sit stay in his place,
Hmm.
he'll, well, he did bark the other day from where he was sitting, and I was like, okay. But usually he doesn't. So,
Hmm. Could you hear the dog? Like, was it like the jing? I wonder if they can just like hear or they just know. But
well,
anyways,
we have like that corner window that are pretty like
yeah.
long, so he sees everything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's like I have to say, like I've mentioned this several times on the show too, that I live right across the street from the park where everybody walks by with their dogs to go to the park. So our dogs like
Mm-hmm.
to announce when there's a dog walking by every time, like,
Yes.
"Hey, there's a dog." And
Yes.
for me, it's like a few barks and then it stops. But I'm trying to even, unless somebody's approaching our house, like I don't I don't need to know that there's a dog walking by. Like,
Yeah. I would like the knock on the door bark, like
yes,
one or two barks,
yes,
but then
exactly.
that's it.
So
The rest I don't want to know.
exactly. And when I'm there on the couch, they know because like they do a little like even like boof, 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 boof.
Oh,
I'm
Ralph sometimes it's like I'm like, "Oh my God. How is that even coming out of his mouth?"
it's the like super long, almost like stringy, like howl one, like the.
Yeah. Yeah. And people are walking by and they're like, "Hi." I'm like,
Oh my God,
"No."
no.
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 Hi,
Oh,
Ralph.
that's brutal because that's like outside your control. You can open your door and be like, "Hey, stop rewarding my dog for his barking." Ooh, that's a toughie. That
Yeah.
that
It's like
is,
I bark and I get attention.
yeah.
Yes.
Another thing that's on the list here is that it just says train your dog. That's pretty general. Train them to what? Train them to what? So what I will mention is basic manners. Like, so like we've said this time and time again, sit stay is like a super helpful command to teach your dog. If you can get them to at the very least do a sit stay and hold it no matter where you are and what distractions happening,
Mhm.
that is helpful. The
Yeah.
other big one that's super helpful is the place command. So place is like either on their dog bed. It's no matter where you point to. Place means go and lay down until I tell you it's okay to stand to get up again. That's place command.
Yeah.
So whether it's upstairs, like on a towel, whether like at the cottage, if I point somewhere and say place to my dogs, they go there and they lay down. Whether it's a couch, a bed, a corner, whatever, the deck at the cottage, place.
Yeah.
They go there and they lay down and they know they have to stay until I say their release word, which for me is okay, which
Mm.
was a bad word. I wouldn't recommend using that as a release word because we say okay a lot, all the time. And then you're like, what are you doing? And you're like, oh yeah, I just said okay. Crap.
Whoops.
Yeah. So those are helpful commands. And that helps you with like the jumping, and it helps with like licking, or like this is like another, like having those two basic commands helps you navigate everything else. And there's like one thing that, and I keep in mind of experiences that I had that I didn't particularly enjoy. So we had some friends a long time ago who had a dog, and this dog's name was Lucy, and we called her Lucy Licks because she licked and licked and licked and licked and licked and
Oh
licked and
God.
licked and licked and licked and licked and licked and licked and licked. She never ever stopped licking, and people don't want a dog licking them. And when, like, she was licking people and people were like, very clearly, like, body language, like, watch your guests' body language. They're
Yeah.
pushing a dog away, or they have a face of disgust and are just trying to make it stop, going like, they don't like that, no, stop, like, doesn't do anything. It's still like an unpleasant. So if you just say, hey, enough, like, back or place, that
Hmm.
keeps the dog off of them, and then now they can choose whether they want to interact with your dog or not. So same
Yeah.
same with, like, my dogs are allowed on the furniture, not when guests are over, because I don't know whether my guests necessarily want a dog sitting next to them on the couch. So
Yeah.
when guests come
That's
over,
true.
the dogs are in place. And then I can say, do you mind if the dog comes up on the couch? And if they're like, no, I prefer not, no problem. And especially if you're eating, you want to have the girls over, you're having a pizza night together, you're all hanging out on the couch. You don't want dogs jumping up in your face and trying to steal your pizza. That's a big no-no.
No.
Big no-no.
Big no no.
So they go to place until people are willing to interact with them.
Yeah.
And same with the licks. Like, licking is like it's too much, man. And even on other dogs.
Kind of
So even
wonder
if
how
your
that
dog,
started.
oh, there's just some dogs that are like that. I've met super licky dogs.
Hmm.
Becky was a licky dog, but I've trained her not to, for people like Matt would. I don't know if you ever
Oh
saw the videos
yes.
that I posted of her, just like, because Matt would let her like lick him, and she would just like go to town, like lick in his ears and his head,
Oh
and
my
like,
God.
and I was like, "What are you doing?" And let her just like go to town, and then you'd like shower or whatever afterwards. But I was just like, yeah, that's a no for me, dog.
No thanks.
That's a no for me, dog. But licking for sure, like licking, and even other animals too. Like, if you don't want a dog licking your dog, or if your dog's too much in another dog's face, and they're starting to like, dogs have their limits too. Like, they don't
Yeah.
want, an older dog doesn't want a puppy chasing it around, and might give them the old Elvis Presley snarl. The
Yes.
we call it the Elvis Presley, when the one lip goes up and they're like, "Argh," and then a snap's coming next, or a bite,
Yeah.
or
Time to intervene.
so again, place command or sit stay, whatever,
Very
to
important.
to keep your dog away,
Yes.
away.
One that I would like to bring up is a dog park. Um,
Hmm.
a do
Hmm.
supervise the entire visit while you're at the dog park.
Yeah.
Because I know I've been I've been there actually with Ralph, where like I started chatting um, with somebody, and Ralph was kind of like pretty much like almost being attacked, and like I really
Ooh.
kind of didn't notice.
Yeah. Yep.
um, and really, like, I got to the dog park and it was like this enclosed area. Like, we usually go to this place called Bruce Pit, where you're just kind of walking and it's kind of just quick interactions. But
Hmm.
this place is like you're closed in. The one dog that you might not really agree with is like just always there.
Yeah.
So this dog kept following Ralph, another male, and Ralph is still intact.
Hmm.
So usually, like, older dogs will bully the younger dog that's still intact. And like, I'm like, oh yeah, like that might happen, but like he's just kind of like okay, kind of following him, and just kind of looked playful, but not really. And then at some point, I could hear like the squealing, and this dog was just like on top of Ralph, where like, yeah, like definitely like supervised the entire visit. And the fact that this dog was following Ralph the whole time and just kind of like chasing him a little bit.
Hmm.
I should have just left at
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah.
So like intervene before something happens.
This is, I was about to mention the same thing, like, just being conscious of, like, when you're off leashing your dog, you are ultimately responsible for them, no
Hmm.
matter what they do or where they go. And it's I was going to touch upon this a little bit because it's interesting when you go with a friend and their dog like together to a dog park or to a dog place, whatever, because it's almost like parenting, like in a sense, right? So you can't really say anything to the other person because it's like a personal like it's
Hmm.
very personal the way you train your dog or what you're comfortable with, but there's like it's a little bit less so with dogs, but it still is to a certain extent. And there's some people who just buy a dog to have the dog and they're not aware of all these training facts, or they're not aware. But after our episode with Evan Doggett, I have personally made it like my mission to watch body language and watch my dog's body language when he greets other dogs. So at this place where Vero and I were just talking about, Bruce Pitt, it's this bit like it's probably like I want to say at least like if you walk the entire exterior of the park, perimeter of the park, I want to say it's like a kilometer and a half, maybe 2 kilometers or whatever.
Yeah.
So when people will either walk one way or the other and you keep walking, and so yes, you greet dogs and then they have a little something or they play for a little bit, but you keep walking and then they call their dog and keep walking the other way and you keep walking this way, and so you have like multiple of these like dog meetings, right? And so I started watching the way that my dogs behave in their body language with other dogs. So now I'm like, yeah, okay, this is I can identify, yep, this is going well.
Hmm.
Or if
Yeah.
they for whatever reason are obsessing over some dog and following him and chasing him and sniffing his like new his snoot glued to the poop
To the toot.
to the toot, his snoot to the toot, I will call him off. Gibbs, let's go, come on, let's go, let's I'm like, hey, and make him focus on me and call him off of that dog, because you don't want to annoy that dog or push him to his limit where now we're going to have an issue.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I can now identify when things are not going well when they have their meeting. So if he like I can start to see the hackles come up a bit and his tail goes straight, and I'm like, okay, Gibbs, come on. And again, I call him off and we just keep going, and then we don't have an issue. But if you're not paying attention and you're not in tune with these things, like you can see how easy it is. And most people aren't. Like, look, I wasn't. We've been podcasting for like past a year before we
Yeah.
had Evan Doggett on. And I was just like, like, Kate, tell me about dog, like thinking like it's like this, like certain thing as if you can like read it in a textbook or something. And you can't. Like each dog has its own personality.
Yeah.
And
You just got to pay
yeah,
attention
that
to your
there might
dog and
yeah, and there might be some common things, and there might not, but at least with your own dog, if you can be in tune with what their body language means. And cuz you can't necessarily tell with somebody else's dog, but you can tell with your dog. So start there. Like again, I'm sorry I keep storytelling and nonstop or whatever, but I
that's
remember
okay.
when Vera and I were going on a trip together to Vancouver, and I remember we were at the airport and she was showing me this video of Wiggum, her
Oh,
old
yeah.
chocolate lab. And when you got too close to him, he would make this face, and then that meant like a snap was coming next,
Yeah.
right? Like, you remember that with the
Yeah.
video? He's just like,
Like bite the
no,
camcorder.
like he would just yes, and he would stop. It was like a sudden, like just like snap, like a crocodile or an alligator.
Yeah.
But I would not be able to identify that on Vero's dog. Like, I don't know what that face means because I don't know him as well. Whereas
Yeah.
she knows a bite's coming, like, holy crap. So, like, whether it's a kid or another dog or whatever, and she sees that face, she knows what's coming next. Right?
Yeah. And even like
So,
with Ralph now, it's just like I can tell what he's gonna do next. It's like
yes,
I know what he's thinking.
yeah, exactly. So, don't be afraid to vocalize that, because other people might not see it and they might not be open to it. But if you're with somebody who's comfortable and they're going outside of your comfort zone with your own dog, advocate for your dog.
Yeah.
Okay, I know you might not be able to see it, but that's his like face where he's going to snap like any second now. So like, can we take a break, or can we like leash them or separate them for a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, to
Yeah.
just like prevent it from happening. So yeah, that was my point, was like, be conscious of your dog and start watching them and start watching their behaviors, because it doesn't take long for you to be like, oh yeah, okay. And most people can, like, and there's obvious things, like obviously like the Elvis Presley, if your dog's got a snarled lip, like,
Yeah.
they're
No more.
they're pissed at something. Like, this needs to end. And so, and it's okay. So like, again, when I went to a different park, like a couple of weekends ago, we were going to leave and I had both my dogs like leashed up. And this woman said, "Oh, is it okay if we say hi?" And so I said, "Sure." And I let Lou off because I knew that she was super submissive and I haven't had any issues with her reacting to other dogs. She had a boxer and I knew that Gibbs doesn't like he does, for whatever reason, does not like boxers. There's an issue every time. And that's where I started watching his behavior, like at the park, because I knew with a boxer. So I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm going to watch what happens with his body here so I can tell if this happens again, like with other dogs. Anyway, so I said, "Oh," and she was like, and again, it's like people take it as like a personal insult or whatever and stuff like that. I don't think people are like willing to understand where another human being's coming from. But anyways, she was just like, "Oh, why? Like, why not him?" And I said, "Yeah, he doesn't like boxers." I don't know why, but I'm like, he just does not like boxers. She's like, "Oh, okay." And yeah, and that's okay to ask why, but it's just
Yeah.
like, you would assume if I'm letting one go and not the other, like clearly this
There's
one is
something.
gonna have like there's something. Doesn't matter what it is. Like, do you want a dog fight today? No, cool. Let's
Let me
just
show you.
yeah.
No.
So yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. The dog park is a big one, and that's why people feel strongly about them, because like it's, again, you're dealing with the general public, and does the general public have an in-depth knowledge about even their own dog? Not necessarily. About dog
No.
behavior, probably not. But I would say it's getting better these days as more and more people get dogs.
I think
But
so. But there's always like a few that they just don't know. It's yeah. They
yeah.
just don't know. But it's their responsible. Their responsibility. It's their responsible.
It's the responsibility. The other thing, which we bring up time and time again, is don't leave your dog alone, like in vehicles. We're gonna boop your windows.
Yes. Yes, we will. I won't
They're gonna
even
get a
like
phone
hesitate.
call. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or like, and not just that, like even tied up out on streets and stuff like that. Like, I don't know, like I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I would be nervous because again, my dogs are just straight up beauties. So
Yeah, like
they'd be gone.
yeah, Ralph too.
Yeah.
And
Oh
Ralph would
God,
just
yeah.
be like, "Okay, where are we going? Where are you
Same with
taking
mine.
me?"
Mine look intimidating, but they would be like, "Hey, who are you? Okay, sure. Can we run? All right."
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't think I would leave Ralph tied up outside of a store while I'm in it, even if it's just for like 2 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. And if something like, who knows, if they react strongly to something, and they get loose or whatever, like
Yeah.
just, I don't know. It's a safety thing for me. And then
Yeah.
obviously we've talked so much about the dogs in cars, whether it's cold, whether it's hot, doesn't matter.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Just don't do
Don't
it.
do it. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Don't do
Yeah.
it. Um, there was another one on here that said microchip your dog.
Mm.
I don't know if that's part of dog etiquette, but it is. If your dog gets lost, it definitely makes it a lot easier to find them. But I say that, and I did not have my dogs microchipped.
Ralph is.
I should have, but I had to take them to America to get fixed, and they usually do that at the same time. And I can't remember if I asked them and they didn't offer it because it's like America rather than Canada. I don't know. But microchipping, it makes it easier. So maybe in the same realm, at least have tags on your dog so that they can be identified and
Yes.
there's phone numbers on them, so that if your dog should get loose,
Tags that you can
now
read.
tags that you can read. Yes,
So I know
exactly.
Wiggum's tag. At some point, you can even read his name, phone number, anything.
Yeah,
It was
and
scratched
say,
off.
and that definitely happens to my dogs because when they clink together, yeah, it scratches and they fade. So there's a variety of different dog tags that you can purchase online, ones that look like little driver's licenses, ones where you can
Mm-hmm.
put funny sayings. Doesn't yours say like, "My mom's ugly crying, please call her," or something?
It only says call my mom. I almost got the one that's like call my mom. She's ugly crying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but there is a variety of different ones out there.
Yes.
A faux show. Now, having said that, I came home yesterday, or when was it? The other night I was out for dinner with some friends. I came home, my husband wasn't here, the door was locked, the battery to the garage opener was dead, so I
Oh
couldn't like get in.
no.
And then and there was a baseball game going on across the street, and then like a pizza driver drove in to my driveway. So I was just like, okay, what is going on? There's just too much going on here right now. What's happening? So anyways, so like the pizza driver comes up. I'm like, did somebody order pizza here? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, so that means somebody's home. Great, somebody's about to open the door for me. So I rang the doorbell, and one of my kids came down. And then as they're doing their pizza interaction, this woman came across the street from the baseball diamond, and she's like, "Do you live here?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Do you have two dark gray dogs?" And I was like, "I do." She's like, "So they came across like in the middle of our game," and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry."
Oh, was the gate opened?
The gate at the side of our house was open. I have no idea why. Like, it is an older gate, and it's weird because like when I tried to get into that gate the other day, I couldn't first of all because I'm too short, so I can't reach over, but I was trying to like squeeze my hand in the side, and it's like the way the wood has warped, so like the latch is like really hard to get open, or if you don't close it properly, then a light breeze can like open it up. But like nobody has like, so usually if we get like our air conditioner serviced or somebody has to go into the backyard for some reason or whatever, we always like make sure that the latch is like closed, but nobody's had been like in our backyard that we know of. So I was just like, well,
Weird.
that's weird. Anyways, so I was just like, oh my god, I'm like, I'm so sorry, I hope like, and she's like, oh no, that's fine. She's like, one of us just like open the door and put them back in your house. And I was like, oh, thank you. I'm like, thank God it was the
It's a
right
good it was the
house.
right house, yeah.
I wonder if it's because they park on front of our house so they hear them barking all the time
See, there's a
when they
reason
go
they
to the
bark.
game. Yes. They're just like, I'm here. This is my house in case I get loose. This is where I live. This is where I live. Hey, you. This is where I live.
You too.
Anyway, so I was like, oh my God, I hope they didn't scare anyone. She's like, oh no. She's like, those are beautiful dogs. And I was like, well, thank you.
Aw.
But I'm like, sorry about that. She's like, oh my God, not a problem, not a problem. I was like, thank you very much. So here I am. And they wouldn't have had like their tags on, right?
No.
No. So they would have been Nick.
They were
Nick.
Nick.
They were Nick. No microchips.
Nick in public.
Nick in public. Nobody would know that their mom was ugly crying.
Nope.
So, yes, do identify your dog
Yes.
in the world of doggy etiquette. There's another one here on the list. I don't know if we still have time. Do you want me to keep going with
Do
one
one
more,
last
maybe?
one.
So the last one was don't take your dog to places they are explicitly barred. And I would add on to that, again, be conscious of places where they aren't necessarily barred, but like you heard the stories of people getting bitten, like Home Depot is a dog friendly place. You see people like doing some of their training in there. You
Yeah.
mentioned it on a recent episode about where you can take your dog and how it goes. So again, just because a place says that you can take your dog there doesn't mean you go in the store and let them run around off leash and like everybody and their brother like
Whee!
petting them and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like, be conscious of it, and again, make sure that their behaviors are in line and that it's not too overwhelming for them, because if you go to Home Depot on a Saturday afternoon, you're probably going to run into a whole lot of families and kids that will all want to come and pet the dog.
Yeah.
So if your dog is not ready for that, don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Yes.
Don't do it.
And
Don't do it.
To add to that, don't bring your dog in environments that they might be anxious in.
Yeah.
Like a party,
Yes.
holiday celebration.
Yeah. Like fireworks.
It's okay
Like
to leave your dog at
even like-
home.
Yep. It's okay to leave your dog at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too. So yes, just be conscious of where you're taking your dog and if they are ready for that or not, because could land you into some trouble. And like one of the things from that was a woman who brought her dog to Home Depot and it bit another customer, and there was like a lawsuit and everything like that. Like, so again,
Yeah.
just be mindful of your dog, be conscious of your dog, and if you
I'd
really
love to
wanna
bring
take them-
Ralph for training.
yeah.
But I think my next stop is like just a parking lot.
Yeah, exactly. Parking lot. Or you can take them to Home Depot, but take them like on a Tuesday night at like 8 where like nobody's going to be there, but
Yeah.
it's enough of a distraction being in a huge department store with
Yeah.
like
New
different noises and stuff
environment.
going on. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. For sure.
Well, I think that is the end of our episode. There's so many more do's and don'ts, but
But yeah, we just wanted to remind you of some of the more obvious ones and just think before you take them somewhere.
mm-hmm.
How are they going to be? How are you going to handle it? Should I be taking them here?
Should I
You know,
not?
should I not? Should I be doing this with my dog? Think of just think. Just take the extra moment to think.
Yes.
Just take an extra moment to think. Yes.
And that's it for today.
Join us next week
on
on Nuts
Nuts Boop
Boop Snoots.
Snoots. Boop.
Boop.